Emma Collins walked through the busy market section of Sanctuary Station, with her backpack slung over one shoulder. The 15-year-old girl had lived on the station for 2 years now, ever since her father Richard had taken the position as Earth's diplomatic attaché. She had grown used to the strange sights and sounds of the alien marketplace. The tall, blue-skinned Kelthians bargained with the insect-like Draxans over spices and fabrics. Small, furry Plenari merchants sold their famous sweets from colorful carts. The air smelled like a mixture of exotic foods, machine oil, and the recycled atmosphere that all space stations shared. Emma loved it here. She had made friends with many of the alien children whose families worked on the station. Her best friend was Xerix, a young Kelthian boy whose parents ran a successful trading business. Xerix had taught her how to speak basic Kelthian, and she had taught him Earth games like chess. Today, Emma was meeting Xerix at their usual spot near the observation deck. But as she cut through a back corridor to avoid the crowd, she heard voices coming from a side passage. Something made her stop and listen. "The next shipment arrives on the 14th cycle," a rough voice said. "Make sure the holding cells are ready. We have 20 units this time." 20? Another voice replied. "The buyers only requested 15. Then we sell the extras separately. The Vixari Consortium doesn't waste product." Emma's heart began to pound. She knew what units meant in this context. People. They were talking about people like they were cargo. She pressed herself against the wall and carefully peeked around the corner. 3 figures stood in the dimly lit passage. 2 were Vexari, large reptilian aliens with gray scales and cold yellow eyes. The third was a Thraxian, one of the warrior species that held significant power in the Galactic Council. All 3 wore expensive clothes, not the rough work gear of station laborers. "The children bring the best prices," the Thraxian said, "especially the rare species. I heard someone paid 50,000 credits for a human child last month." Emma's blood ran cold. Human children. They were trafficking human children. "The humans are easy targets," one of the Vexari replied with a laugh that sounded like rocks grinding together. "Their government complains, but the council ignores them. No one cares about the humans." Emma slowly backed away, her hands shaking. She had to tell someone. She had to stop this. She ran through the corridors until she found Xerix waiting for her at the observation deck. The young Kelthian took one look at her face and knew something was wrong. "Emma, what happened?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. She told him everything she had heard. Xerix's blue skin turned pale, a sign of fear in his species. "Emma, you need to forget what you heard," Xerix said quietly, looking around to make sure no one was listening. "The Vexari Consortium is dangerous. They have connections everywhere, even in the council." "I can't forget it," Emma said firmly. "They're hurting people. They're taking children. I have to report this. Please, Emma. My father says the consortium makes people disappear. If you report them, they will know it was you." "Then they'll know," Emma said. "I'm not going to stay quiet while they steal and sell people." That evening, Emma went to the station security office. The officer on duty was a bored-looking Draxan who barely glanced up from his datapad when she entered. "I need to report a crime," Emma said. "What kind of crime?" the officer asked. "Trafficking. Slavery. I overheard 3 people talking about buying and selling people, including human children." The officer's antennae twitched with mild interest. "And where did you hear this?" "In the back corridors near Section 12 of the market level." "Did you see any actual evidence? Any prisoners? Any exchange of money?" "No, but I heard them talking clearly. They mentioned the Vexari Consortium and—" "Listen, kid," the officer interrupted. "I can't investigate the Vexari Consortium based on something you think you heard. Do you know how much power they have? Do you know who would be angry with me if I started asking questions without proof? But people are being hurt," Emma insisted. "Come back when you have real evidence," the officer said, turning back to his datapad. "Until then, I suggest you stay out of places where you don't belong." Emma left the security office frustrated and angry. She knew what she had heard. She knew it was real. If station security wouldn't help, she would find the evidence herself. Over the next 3 days, Emma carefully explored the back corridors of the station. She recorded her movements on her personal datapad, marking locations and times. She saw nothing suspicious at first, but she was patient. On the 3rd day, she found it. Hidden behind a false panel in an unused storage area was a small office. Through the gap in the door, she could see computer terminals and file boxes. On one screen, she saw lists of names and species. Next to each name was a number, probably a price. Emma pulled out her datapad and began taking pictures. Her hands trembled as she photographed everything she could see. This was the evidence. This would prove what she had heard. She was so focused on documenting everything that she didn't hear the footsteps behind her until it was too late. "Well, what do we have here?" a cold voice said. Emma spun around and found herself face to face with a tall Vexari in an expensive suit. His yellow eyes studied her like a snake watching a mouse. "I was just lost," Emma said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I was looking for the market level, with a camera recording our private office." The Vexari smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "I don't think so, little human. I think you've been very curious about things that don't concern you." Emma ran. She ducked under the Vexari's reaching arm and sprinted down the corridor. Behind her, she heard shouts and heavy footsteps. Her heart hammered in her chest as she rounded corners and pushed through crowds. She managed to reach a public area before her pursuers caught up. In the safety of the crowded market, she slipped into a shop and hid behind a display of fabrics. The Vexari who had chased her walked past, scanning the crowd but didn't see her. When she felt safe enough, Emma made her way back to the diplomatic quarters where she lived with her father. Richard Collins was in his office working when she arrived. "Dad, I need to talk to you," Emma said breathlessly. She told him everything. Richard's face grew darker with each word. "I need to report this to Earth immediately," he said. "And we need to keep you safe. These are dangerous people, Emma." "I know," Emma said, "but we can stop them now. I have the evidence." She reached for her datapad to show him the pictures, but her heart sank. The datapad's screen was cracked from her running, and when she tried to access the photos, the files were corrupted. The evidence was gone. "It's okay," Richard said, pulling her into a hug. "We'll figure this out. I'll talk to station administration tomorrow. We'll handle this through proper channels." But Emma saw the worry in her father's eyes. She had stirred up something dangerous, and they both knew it. 3 days later, station maintenance discovered Emma's body in a service corridor on the lower levels. The official report said there had been a malfunction in the environmental controls. The section had lost oxygen for approximately 10 minutes. Emma Collins had been in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was ruled an accident. Just a tragic random accident. Admiral Catherine Hayes stood in the command center of Neptune Base, staring at the message on her screen. The words were simple, but their meaning shook her to the core. Emma Collins, daughter of diplomatic attaché Richard Collins, was dead. Killed on Sanctuary Station, ruled an accident by station authorities. Catherine had served in Earth's military for 30 years. She had been part of the Hidden Fleet project since its beginning, back when humanity first realized that the Galactic Council saw them as nothing more than weak newcomers. She had helped build the secret shipyards beyond Neptune's orbit, had trained thousands of soldiers in facilities the galaxy didn't know existed, but this message made her feel something she hadn't felt in years. Pure cold anger. "Get me the Earth Defense Council," she said to her communications officer. "Emergency meeting. Everyone needs to be there." Within an hour, the council had assembled in the secure conference room. These were the people who knew Earth's greatest secret. General Paul Martinez, head of ground forces, Director Helen Cho of intelligence, Secretary of Defense Gregory Palmer, and a dozen others who had spent 2 decades preparing for the day when Earth might need to defend itself against a hostile galaxy. "You've all seen the report," Catherine said, standing at the head of the table. "A 15-year-old girl is dead. Station security claims it was an accident. I don't believe that for a second." "What do we know?" Helen Cho asked. "Not enough, but I'm about to change that." Catherine pulled up a holographic display. "I'm sending Captain Daniel Cross and his team to investigate. If this was murder, we need to know who did it and why." "And if we confirm it was murder?" General Martinez asked. "What then?" Catherine's expression hardened. "Then we show the galaxy that humanity protects its own." Captain Daniel Cross received his orders while his ship, the Valiant, was on patrol near the asteroid belt. The Valiant was one of Earth's stealth warships, designed to look like a civilian transport but packed with weapons and sensors that could rival any Council military vessel. Daniel was 42 years old, a veteran of Earth's hidden military. He had joined the project 15 years ago after his sister was assaulted on a Council world, and the local authorities refused to investigate because she was human. He understood exactly what this mission meant. "We're going undercover," he told his team in the briefing room. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, you'll pose as a trade representative. Sergeant Chris Martinez, you're her security. Lieutenant Commander Alex Rivers, you'll handle the technical side. We need to get onto that station and find out what really happened to Emma Collins. Sarah Kim was their intelligence specialist, skilled at blending in and gathering information. Chris Martinez was a combat expert who could handle himself in any fight. Alex Rivers was their tech genius, capable of hacking almost any system in the galaxy. What's our cover story? Sarah asked. We're from a small Earth trading company looking to establish roots in this sector, Daniel explained. It's boring enough that no one will pay much attention to us. Once we're on the station, we split up and investigate. The Valiant docked at Sanctuary Station 4 days later. The team passed through customs without any problems. To the station authorities, they were just another group of humans trying to make their way in the galactic economy. Daniel made his first stop at the market level, near where Emma had been found. He walked through the corridors slowly, studying everything. The station was massive, home to over 50,000 beings from hundreds of different species. Finding the truth here would be like searching for a specific grain of sand on a beach, but Daniel was patient. He had been trained to notice things others missed. In a small cafe that served human-style coffee, he struck up a conversation with a Plenary shopkeeper named Trix. The small, furry alien was happy to chat with a customer. Terrible thing about that human girl, Trix said, shaking her head. So young. You heard about that? Daniel asked casually. Everyone heard. The girl's father was very upset. He demanded an investigation, but Administrator Kelgoth said it was just an accident. These things happen on stations, you know. Administrator Kelgoth is Vexari, right? Daniel asked. Yes, he runs the station. Very powerful. Very connected. Trix leaned closer and lowered her voice. Between you and me, I don't think it was an accident. That girl was smart. She wouldn't go into a dangerous area alone. What makes you say that? I saw her sometimes in the market. She was always careful, always aware, and I heard she was asking questions about things she shouldn't have been asking about. What kind of things? Trix's eyes darted around nervously. I've said too much already. The Vexari Consortium doesn't like people who gossip. Daniel thanked her and left. The Vexari Consortium. That name kept appearing. Meanwhile, Sarah Kim had made contact with some of the human families living on the station. There were about 200 humans on Sanctuary Station, mostly traders and workers. She met with them in small groups, asking carefully worded questions. One woman, a teacher named Patricia Moore, was willing to talk. Emma was a student of mine, Patricia said sadly. Bright girl, curious, she wanted to help people. Did she mention anything unusual before she died? Sarah asked. Patricia hesitated. She came to me about a week before the accident. She said she had discovered something terrible, but that the authorities wouldn't listen. She wanted advice on what to do. Did she tell you what she discovered? No, she said it was safer if I didn't know. But she was scared. I could see it in her eyes. I told her to talk to her father, to stay away from whatever she had found. I wish I had done more, Sarah reported back to Daniel. The picture was becoming clearer. Emma had found something, probably evidence of a crime. She had tried to report it and been ignored. And then she had died. Alex Rivers was working on the technical angle. Using equipment hidden in his personal belongings, he hacked into the station's maintenance records. What he found was interesting. The environmental controls in the corridor where Emma died had been manually overridden. Someone had deliberately shut off the oxygen to that section. It hadn't been a malfunction at all. It had been murder, made to look like an accident. But Alex found something else too. Emma's personal datapad had been logged into the station network from that same corridor at the time of her death. He managed to recover fragments of deleted files. Photos, documents, lists of names and numbers. She was gathering evidence, Alex told Daniel. Evidence of a trafficking operation. She must have gotten too close. Can you recover more of the files? Daniel asked. I'm working on it. But there's something else. I found records of other incidents. 5 other deaths on this station in the past year. All ruled accidents. 3 of them were people who worked in station security or administration. People who might have been investigating the same thing Emma found. Daniel felt his jaw tighten. This wasn't just about one murdered girl. This was about a systematic cover-up. Keep digging, he ordered. I'm going to have a conversation with Emma's father. Richard Collins was packing when Daniel arrived at his quarters. The diplomat looked like he had aged 10 years in the past week. His eyes were red from crying, his hands shook slightly as he folded clothes. "Mr. Collins, my name is Captain Daniel Cross. I'm with Earth Defense Intelligence. I need to talk to you about your daughter." Richard looked up sharply. "Earth Defense Intelligence? I've never heard of that organization. Most people haven't. We operate quietly. Can we talk privately?" Richard led him to a secure room and activated a privacy field. Daniel told him the truth about who he was and why he was there. "Your daughter was murdered," Daniel said. "We have proof. The environmental failure was deliberate. Emma found evidence of a trafficking ring operating on this station, and they killed her to keep her quiet." Richard's face went pale, then red with anger. "I knew it. I told Administrator Kelgoth it wasn't an accident. I demanded a real investigation. He refused. The council representative I spoke with said I was being emotional and should accept the official report. The trafficking ring has connections high up in the station administration, probably in the council too. That's why they've been able to operate freely." "What are you going to do about it?" Richard asked. "We're gathering evidence. Once we have everything, we're going to bring down everyone involved in your daughter's death. But I need your help. Did Emma give you anything? Any files, any information about what she found?" Richard thought for a moment, then went to his desk. He pulled out a small data chip. "Emma gave this to me the day before she died. She said it was a backup just in case. I haven't looked at it yet. I couldn't bring myself to." Daniel took the chip carefully. "This might be exactly what we need. Thank you, Mr. Collins. Captain, when you find the people who killed my daughter, what will happen to them?" Daniel's expression was hard as stone. "Justice, Mr. Collins. One way or another, there will be justice." The data chip that Emma Collins had given her father contained everything. Names, dates, locations, financial transactions. She had been more thorough than anyone expected. The evidence showed a trafficking network that stretched across 20 star systems, involving 3 major council species and dozens of smaller criminal organizations. Captain Daniel Cross brought the evidence back to Neptune Base, where Admiral Catherine Hayes assembled her senior staff to review it. What they saw made them sick with rage. Over the past 5 years, the trafficking ring had kidnapped more than 2,000 sentient beings from various species. At least 50 of them were human, most of them children. The ring specifically targeted protected species, those whose governments had little power in the Galactic Council. They knew no one would look for these people. Helen Cho said, her voice tight with anger. They knew the council wouldn't care enough to investigate. "Station Administrator Kelgoth is directly involved," Daniel reported. "So is Thane Vexer, head of the Vexari Consortium. We also have evidence linking certain members of the Thraxian military and the Kelthian Trade Authority." Admiral Hayes stared at the data on the screen. She had spent 20 years preparing for the day when humanity might need to show its strength. She had hoped that day would never come, but now it was here and she was ready. "Send this to the United Earth government," she ordered. "They need to see what we're dealing with. We'll let them decide how to proceed." The evidence reached the highest levels of Earth's government within hours. President Jonathan Webb called an emergency cabinet meeting. Secretary of Defense Gregory Palmer presented the findings. "A 15-year-old girl is dead because she tried to do the right thing," Palmer said. "And the people who killed her think they can get away with it because we're human. Because the council sees us as weak. What are our options?" President Webb asked. "We can file an official complaint with the Galactic Council, demand an investigation and justice for Emma Collins and all the other victims. And if the council refuses?" Palmer glanced at Admiral Hayes, who had joined the meeting via secure link. "Then we have other options. Options the galaxy doesn't know we have?" President Webb was quiet for a long moment. He had been briefed on the Hidden Fleet project when he took office 2 years ago. He knew about the 2,000 warships hidden in the outer solar system. He knew about the weapons, the trained soldiers, the advanced technology that Earth had been developing in secret. "We'll try diplomacy first," Webb said finally. "We'll give the council a chance to do the right thing. But if they refuse, if they dismiss us again, then we show them what humanity is capable of. Prepare the fleet for deployment." Ambassador Lisa Grant was Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. She was a skilled diplomat who had spent years trying to gain respect for humanity among the other species. She had faced condescension, dismissal, and outright rudeness from council members who saw Earth as an insignificant newcomer. But today, she walked into the council chambers with her head held high and a datapad containing evidence that would shake the Galaxy. The council chamber was a massive dome where representatives from 200 species gathered to debate and vote on galactic matters. The most powerful species sat in the front rows: the Thraxian Empire, the Vexari Confederacy, the Kelthian Trade Authority, and others who had shaped galactic politics for thousands of years. Humans sat in the back, among the minor species who had little voice in council decisions. The council recognizes Ambassador Grant of Earth, the council speaker announced, his tone making it clear this was a minor interruption to more important business. Lisa walked to the central platform where speakers addressed the council. She connected her datapad to the main display system. "Honorable council members," she began, "I come before you today to present evidence of a grave crime, a crime that has victimized hundreds of beings from dozens of species, a crime that involves members of this very council." That got their attention. Conversations stopped. Representatives turned to look at her. Lisa displayed the first image on the screens around the chamber. It was a photo of Emma Collins smiling at the camera. This is Emma Collins. She was 15 years old. She lived on Sanctuary Station with her father, who serves as Earth's diplomatic attaché. 2 weeks ago, Emma discovered evidence of a trafficking ring operating on the station. She tried to report it to authorities. She was murdered for her efforts. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Lisa continued, displaying more evidence on the screens. Station Administrator Kelgoth ruled her death an accident. But we have proof that the environmental controls were manually overridden. Emma was suffocated deliberately, and we have evidence that Kelgoth himself is part of the trafficking network. She showed the financial records, the communications, the lists of victims. Each piece of evidence was damning. We have proof that this network involves the Vexari Consortium, elements of the Thraxian military, and corrupt officials in the Kelthian Trade Authority. Over 2,000 sentient beings have been kidnapped and sold as slaves. 50 of them were human children. The Vexari representative stood up, his scales flushed dark with anger. "This is outrageous. These accusations are baseless. This is clearly fabricated evidence designed to smear my people." "The evidence is real," Lisa said firmly. "We have it all. Names, dates, transactions, everything. And we are prepared to share it with anyone who wants to verify it." The Thraxian representative, a large warrior with battle scars across his face, laughed. "Even if these wild claims were true, what does Earth expect us to do? Arrest our own officials based on the word of a species that has been part of the galactic community for barely 20 years? We expect justice," Lisa said. "We demand that all those involved in this trafficking network be arrested and tried. We demand that Sanctuary Station be placed under neutral administration, and we demand that the Council take immediate action to protect all species, not just the powerful ones." The Council speaker looked uncomfortable. "These are serious accusations. The Council will need time to review the evidence and—" "No," Lisa interrupted. "No more delays. No more committees. No more empty promises. Earth has tried to work within the Council system for 20 years. We have filed complaints, we have asked for help, and we have been ignored. This ends now." She pulled out a prepared statement and read it clearly. "The United Earth government demands that the Galactic Council take action within 48 hours. Arrest those responsible for Emma Collins' murder and the trafficking of over 2,000 beings. If the Council fails to act, Earth will take matters into its own hands." The chamber erupted in shocked conversations. Several representatives laughed openly at the threat. The Thraxian representative stood and addressed Lisa directly. "And what exactly will Earth do?" he asked mockingly. "Your species has a small defense force suitable only for protecting your own system. You have no power here. You have no fleet capable of challenging Council authority." Lisa looked him directly in the eyes. "We have more than you think. And if you force us to prove it, you will regret it." The Council speaker called for order. The Council will now vote on whether to investigate these allegations. The vote took less than 10 minutes. 147 members voted against investigation. 32 voted in favor. 21 abstained. The Council speaker announced the results. The motion fails. The Council finds insufficient cause to pursue these allegations. The matter is closed. Lisa had expected this. The powerful species protected each other. They always had. But she had given them a chance. Earth had tried diplomacy one last time. She collected her datapad and walked toward the exit. As she passed the Vexari representative, he smiled at her. "Go home, human," he said quietly. "Know your place in this galaxy. Lisa stopped and turned to face him. "We know exactly what our place is, and soon you will too." She left the council chambers and immediately contacted Admiral Hayes. They refused, Lisa reported. The vote wasn't even close. "Then we proceed with the alternative plan," Catherine said. "Tell Earth's civilian government to begin evacuating our people from council worlds. Tell our ambassadors to return home, and tell the fleet to prepare for deployment." "How long before you're ready?" Lisa asked. "We've been ready for 20 years. We launch in 36 hours. Lisa felt a mixture of fear and satisfaction. Earth was about to do something that would change the galaxy forever. They were about to show every species that had dismissed them, that had looked down on them, that humanity was not weak. In the council chambers, the representatives went back to their normal business, discussing trade agreements and territorial disputes. They had already forgotten about the human ambassador and her ridiculous threats. They had no idea that everything was about to change. On Neptune base, Admiral Hayes stood in the command center and looked out at the hidden fleet. 2,000 warships hung in the darkness of space, built in secret over 2 decades. Each one was crewed and ready. Each one was armed with weapons the galaxy had never seen. "Send the message to all ship commanders," Catherine ordered. "Operation Justice begins in 36 hours. We're going to war." Around her, officers moved to carry out her orders. The fleet that Earth had hidden for so long was about to emerge from the shadows. The 48 hours passed. The Galactic Council did nothing. They believed Earth was bluffing. They believed humanity was too weak to challenge them. They were wrong. At exactly the appointed time, the hidden fleet emerged from the outer reaches of Earth's solar system. Ship after ship powered up their engines and moved into formation. What the galaxy thought was a small defense force of 200 vessels was actually 2,000 modern warships. Admiral Catherine Hayes stood on the bridge of her flagship, the carrier Independence. Around her, officers worked at their stations with calm efficiency. They had trained for this moment for years. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her communications officer reported. "Send the message to all commanders," Catherine ordered. "Operation Justice is now active. Execute Phase 1. Across the fleet, captains opened their sealed orders. The first targets were already identified. The fleet split into multiple task forces, each with a specific mission. Captain Daniel Cross commanded Task Force Gamma from the Valiant. His orders were clear: blockade Sanctuary Station, allow no ships in or out, and prepare for boarding operations to capture Station Administrator Kelgoth. "Take us to faster than light speed," Daniel ordered. "Time to show them what Earth can do." The Valiant and 15 other ships jumped to faster than light travel. They emerged from the jump point near Sanctuary Station exactly on schedule. Within minutes, they had formed a perimeter around the station. On the station, Administrator Kelgoth was in his office when his security chief burst in. "Sir, we have a problem. Multiple human warships have just appeared and are blocking the station." "What?" Kelgoth stood up quickly. "How many ships?" 16, sir. "They're demanding that all traffic stop immediately." Kelgoth felt a cold fear in his chest. He had heard about the human ambassador's threat to the council, but he had assumed it was empty words. Humans didn't have the ships or the power to challenge anyone. "Get me a communication channel to the Council Military Command," he ordered. Before his security chief could respond, all the displays in his office switched to show a human in a military uniform. "Administrator Kelgoth," Daniel Cross said. "This is Captain Cross of the Earth Defense Force. You are under arrest for murder, trafficking, and crimes against sentient beings. You will surrender yourself and all data relating to your criminal operations. You have 1 hour to comply." Kelgoth's face twisted with rage. "You have no authority here, human. This station is Council territory. I demand you leave immediately or face the consequences." "The time for demands is over," Daniel replied calmly. "You have 1 hour. If you do not surrender, we will board the station and take you by force." The communication ended. Kelgoth immediately contacted his allies in the Vexari Consortium and the Council military. Surely they would send ships to deal with these arrogant humans. But Kelgoth's allies had their own problems. Task Force Alpha, commanded by Admiral Hayes herself, had struck at 3 Vexari military outposts in rapid succession. The attacks were surgical and devastating. Earth's weapons technology was more advanced than anyone had known. Their targeting systems were more accurate. Their ships were faster and more maneuverable. The first outpost was destroyed in less than 15 minutes. The second fell even faster. By the time the third outpost realized they were under attack, it was too late. The message was clear. Earth could strike anywhere, anytime. Task Force Beta had different orders. Their mission was to intercept and liberate the trafficking ships. Using intelligence gathered from Emma's data chip, they knew where 2 slave transports would be traveling. Captain Amanda Pierce commanded the carrier Resolute in this operation. Her fighter wings launched from the carrier and intercepted the first transport ship near the Helios belt. "This is Earth Defense Force," Amanda transmitted to the transport. "Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. You are carrying kidnapped beings. Release them immediately." The transport captain, a Vexari named Hargoth, laughed at the transmission. "You have no jurisdiction here, human. These are legitimate cargo ships." "Last warning," Amanda said. "Cut your engines." Hargoth ordered his ship to run. That was a mistake. Amanda's fighters swarmed the transport. Their weapons disabled the engines without destroying the ship. Within minutes, Earth Marines were boarding the vessel. What they found inside made their blood boil. Over 150 beings locked in cramped cells. Adults and children from 20 different species. Malnourished, frightened, and abused. Among them were 23 human children, some as young as 6 years old. They had been missing for months. Their families told they had probably run away or gotten lost. The council authorities had barely investigated. "Get medical teams in here now," the Marine commander ordered, "and document everything. I want records of every single person we find." The same scene played out at the second transport. In total, Earth forces liberated over 300 beings in the first 6 hours of operation. The freed captives were taken to the carrier Resolute, where doctors and counselors worked to care for them. Many wept with relief. Some couldn't believe they were finally free. A young human girl named Sophie, only 8 years old, looked up at the Marine who carried her to safety. "Are you really taking us home?" she asked. "Yes," the Marine replied, his voice tight with emotion. "We're taking you home. You're safe now." News of Earth's actions spread quickly across the galaxy. The Council tried to control the information, but they couldn't. Too many people had seen the human warships. Too many witnesses talked about the attacks on Vexari facilities and the liberation of the trafficking ships. The Thraxian Empire decided to respond with force. They sent a battle fleet of 50 warships to teach the humans their place. The fleet commander, War Chief Kralthor, was confident of victory. Humans were weak. Everyone knew that. His fleet encountered Task Force Delta near the Helios belt. Captain Amanda Pierce had moved her carrier group there after liberating the transport ships. "Human vessels. You are ordered to surrender immediately," Kralthor transmitted. "You have attacked Council facilities and interfered with Council business. Surrender or be destroyed." Amanda looked at the tactical display. 50 Thraxian warships against her task force of 20. On paper, the Thraxians had the advantage. But paper didn't account for Earth's superior technology and training. "All ships, battle formation," Amanda ordered. "Launch all fighters. Let's show them what humans can do." The battle began. Thraxian ships opened fire with their plasma cannons, but Earth's ships were faster and more agile. They dodged most of the incoming fire, and their shields absorbed the rest. Earth's fighters launched in waves, small quick craft piloted by men and women who had trained their entire adult lives for this moment. They swarmed through the Thraxian formation like angry hornets. The Thraxians had never faced tactics like this. Their ships were designed for head-to-head battles, not for dealing with swarms of small craft that could strike from any angle. Earth's torpedoes were more advanced than Thraxian technology. They found weak points in shields and hulls that the Thraxians didn't even know they had. One by one, Thraxian ships were disabled or destroyed. Kralthor watched in horror as his fleet fell apart around him. How were the humans doing this? How were they so effective? "All ships, retreat," he ordered. "Fall back to Council space." But it was too late for many of his ships. When the battle ended 2 hours later, 37 Thraxian warships had been destroyed or crippled. The rest limped away in retreat. Earth lost 5 fighters and had 3 ships damaged, but none destroyed. Amanda surveyed the battlefield with grim satisfaction. She took no joy in killing, but this message needed to be sent. Earth was not weak. Earth would not be pushed around. "Send a message to the retreating ships," she ordered. "Tell them this is what happens when you threaten humanity. Tell them to warn their leaders. We will defend our people, and we will bring justice to those who harm them. Back at Sanctuary Station, Administrator Kelgoth's hour had expired. He had refused to surrender, believing that help would arrive. No help came. Captain Daniel Cross gave the order. Begin boarding operations. Rules of engagement are clear. We want Kelgoth alive, but anyone who resists will be dealt with. Earth Marines launched from their ships in armored boarding craft. Station security tried to resist, but they were no match for trained human soldiers. The Marines moved through the station with devastating efficiency. They fought their way to the administrative center, where Kelgoth had barricaded himself with his personal guards. The battle was short but fierce. When it ended, 3 Marines were wounded but none killed. All of Kelgoth's guards were either dead or captured. Kelgoth himself was dragged from his office in restraints. "You can't do this," he shouted. "I am a council official." "You have no authority." "You murdered a child," Daniel said coldly. "You trafficked innocent beings. You thought you were untouchable. You were wrong." The Marines also raided the Vexari Consortium's local headquarters on the station. They seized data cores containing evidence of the entire trafficking network. Names, locations, financial records, everything. By the end of the first day of Operation Justice, Earth had struck 6 different targets. They had captured or killed dozens of traffickers. They had liberated over 300 beings. And they had destroyed or crippled a Thraxian battle fleet. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. The chamber that had been filled with arrogant confidence a week ago was now tense with fear and anger. Representatives shouted at each other, blamed each other, and demanded action. The Thraxian representative stood before the council, his face scarred and his pride wounded. "The humans have declared war on us. They destroyed a third of our battle fleet. We must retaliate with overwhelming force. We must crush them before they grow stronger." The Vexari representative agreed. "Earth must be punished. They have attacked council members. They have stolen council property. This cannot stand." But other voices spoke up too. The representative from the Kelthian Trade Authority, a species that had some involvement in the trafficking network, spoke carefully. "Perhaps we should consider Earth's demands. They have presented evidence of serious crimes that some council members may have been involved in." "Are you suggesting we give in to human threats?" the Thraxian shouted. "I'm suggesting we consider why the humans are angry," the Kelthian replied. "They tried to work through proper channels. We ignored them. A child was murdered and we called it an accident. Maybe we should have listened." The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species wanted to attack Earth immediately. Others counseled caution. A few, mostly the minor species that had little power in the council, quietly supported Earth's actions. The truth was that the council was divided. And while they argued, Earth continued to act. Admiral Catherine Hayes expanded her operations. Task forces spread out across council space, targeting every location mentioned in Emma's data. Trafficking hideouts were raided. Criminal leaders were captured or killed. More slaves were freed. With each operation, Earth released the evidence publicly on galactic networks. Videos of the freed prisoners, documents showing council officials' involvement, financial records proving the trafficking network's extent. The galaxy watched in shock. For decades, rumors had whispered about trafficking and corruption in council space. But no one had proof. No one had been willing to challenge the powerful species who controlled everything. Now Earth was exposing it all. And people were paying attention. On hundreds of worlds, citizens of minor species began to protest. They marched in the streets demanding that their leaders support Earth's actions. They wanted justice too. They wanted a council that protected everyone, not just the powerful. The council tried to control the narrative. They claimed Earth was lying. They said the evidence was fake. They insisted that humans were the real criminals, attacking innocent council members. But too many people had seen the truth. Too many freed slaves told their stories. Too many documents were verified as real. The council's credibility crumbled. 3 weeks after Operation Justice began, the first major council species broke ranks. The Planari Federation, a peaceful trading species that had long been uncomfortable with council corruption, officially announced their support for Earth's demands. "We have reviewed the evidence," the Planari Prime Minister declared. "We believe Earth's accusations are valid. We call on the Council to arrest those responsible and reform our justice systems to protect all species equally." Other species followed. The Draxon Collective, The Zephyrian Union, the Minoran Republic. One by one, council members either supported Earth or withdrew from council meetings in protest. The powerful species that had run the council for millennia found themselves isolated. The Vexari Confederacy and the Thraxian Empire tried to form a rival alliance, but most species refused to join. They had seen what Earth could do militarily. They didn't want to be on the wrong side. 6 weeks after Emma's death, the council finally capitulated. The council speaker, under pressure from dozens of member species, made an official announcement. The Galactic Council acknowledges that serious crimes have been committed. We agree to Earth's demands. All those accused of involvement in trafficking operations will be arrested and tried. Sanctuary Station will be placed under neutral administration, and the Council will establish new protections for all species, regardless of their size or power. It was a complete victory for Earth. But Admiral Hayes wasn't satisfied yet. We'll verify their compliance, she told her command staff. We'll watch every arrest, every trial. If they try to protect their criminals, we'll finish what we started. Thane Vexer, head of the Vexari Consortium and one of the main architects of the trafficking network, was arrested by his own government. They had no choice. Earth had made it clear that if the Vexari didn't arrest Vexer themselves, Earth would come and get him. The trial took place on a neutral world, with judges from multiple species. The evidence was overwhelming. Vexer was convicted of trafficking, murder, and conspiracy. He was sentenced to life imprisonment in a maximum security facility. Station Administrator Kelgoth faced trial for Emma's murder. Richard Collins attended every day of the proceedings, sitting in the front row and staring at the Vexari who had killed his daughter. When the guilty verdict was announced, Richard felt no satisfaction. His daughter was still gone. No amount of justice would bring her back, but at least Emma's death had meant something. It had changed the galaxy. The reforms to the Galactic Council were extensive. Every species, no matter how small, received full voting rights. A new council security force was established, independent of any single species, to investigate crimes across galactic space, and new laws were passed protecting the rights of all sentient beings. Earth's fleet remained visible and active. Admiral Hayes made sure everyone knew that humanity's military power was real and permanent. The hidden fleet was hidden no longer. It patrolled known space, protecting Earth's interests and assisting species who requested help. The galaxy's attitude toward humanity changed overnight. The species that had dismissed humans as weak newcomers now treated them with respect and often with fear. Earth had proven itself to be a major power, one that would not tolerate injustice. 6 months after Emma's death, a memorial was erected on Sanctuary Station. It was a simple monument made of stone from Earth, bearing Emma's name and the names of all the other victims of the trafficking network. Richard Collins attended the dedication ceremony. Admiral Hayes and Captain Daniel Cross stood with him. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species came to pay their respects. Among them was Xerix, Emma's Kelthian friend. The young alien approached Richard slowly, carrying a bundle of earth flowers. "Mr. Collins," Xerix said quietly, "I'm sorry I didn't help Emma when she needed it. I was afraid. I told her to stay quiet. If I had been braver, maybe she would still be alive." Richard put a hand on Xerix's shoulder. Emma made her own choice. She knew the risks, and because of her courage, hundreds of people were saved. You have nothing to apologize for. Xerix placed the flowers at the memorial. I promise I'll never stay quiet again. When I see injustice, I'll fight it. Just like Emma did, Richard nodded. She would have liked that. The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence. As Richard stood before his daughter's name carved in stone, he felt a hand on his arm. Admiral Hayes stood beside him. "Your daughter changed the galaxy," Catherine said softly. "She exposed evil that had been hidden for years. She gave voice to victims who had been forgotten, and she showed everyone that one person, even a young person, can make a difference." "I just wish she was here to see it," Richard replied, his voice thick with emotion. "I think she knows," Catherine said. "Somehow I think she knows." Captain Daniel Cross approached with a datapad. "Admiral, we're receiving requests from 17 species asking for Earth's assistance with their own investigations into trafficking and corruption. It seems Emma's story inspired a lot of people. Then we'll help them," Catherine said. That's what Emma would have wanted. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was not a species to be dismissed or ignored. They were builders and diplomats, yes, But they were also warriors when they needed to be. And above all, they were protectors of their own. The trafficking network that had operated for decades was destroyed. Those responsible faced justice, and new safeguards were put in place to prevent such crimes from happening again. But the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed justice itself. For too long, the powerful had protected the powerful. The Council had ignored the suffering of those who had no voice. Emma Collins had given them a voice. A 15-year-old girl had done what the entire Council had failed to do. She had exposed the truth, and her death had awakened a sleeping giant that refused to let her sacrifice be in vain. On Earth, Emma's story became legend. Schools taught about her courage. Parents told their children about the girl who stood up for what was right, even when it was dangerous. She became a symbol of everything humanity valued: compassion, bravery, and an unwavering commitment to justice. Years later, the first Earth Military Academy graduated a new class of officers. The academy was named in Emma's honor. Every graduate received a medal bearing her image and the words she had lived by. Do what is right, even when it's hard. The galaxy would never forget the girl who died trying to save people she didn't know. And they would never forget what happened when they murdered her. Earth's hidden fleet had risen and the galaxy would never be the same. In the vastness of space, on a quiet station that had once been a place of evil, flowers grew around Emma's memorial.